Well, cool. Look, so we got I think a quorum to get started. So a bunch of attendees. So yeah, let's get started. So first off, everyone on the panel, attendees, want to thank you guys for joining this webinar that we're doing today. Really thought it would be a good idea to just kind of share, what we've been hearing and learning in the industry, regarding coronavirus and everything that's happening recently. And then bring in some, industry leaders who are using single ops, in different parts of the country, offering different services to just kind of hear how things are going for them also. So one of the things that we're going to be doing today, in addition to hearing from the panelists with some great questions, is we're going to make this interactive. So for all panelists and attendees, we're going to be doing some polls where we'd love to get your feedback, regarding, basically how this has been impacting your business and things you've learned. So great. So let's get started. First, I want to give just like a very brief introduction of everyone that we've got on the panel today. And then I'm going to pass it over to them, just kind of give a little bit more background on their business and everything about them. So we've got Matt Lowe, founder and CEO of Swift Straw, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Heather Dirksen with Arbor Masters, based out of Kansas City, but also with 5 other locations across the Southwest. Matt Shepayo with Preservation Tree, based out of Colorado. Ross Day with Oasis Landscapes and Irrigation, based out of Atlanta, and Jack Harder with Harder Services, based out of New York. And so we've got a really well diverse group today, spanning all kind of green industry services. And so that's what we wanted to bring together for you guys first. So let's go down the list and just do very quick introductions. Matt, you are first.
Hey everyone, Matt Lowe, co-founder and CEO of Swift Straw. Our business, we have 3 divisions. We have an installation division where we install pine straw and mulch. Right now we've got crews as far west as Texas, and North Carolina is our northernmost boundary currently, and then every state in the Southeast. We have a distribution business where we're the ones that, I'm sure y'all have seen the trailers that are parked in Lowe's and Home Depot and other retailers with pine straw in them. So those are our trailers, or a lot of those are. And then we have a production division where we make a compressed bag of pine straw, which we're in about 1,000 locations across the Southeast and up into the Midwest and the Northeast. So those are our 3 divisions, and I'm sure we'll have some more questions about how this is impacting us, but that's kind of the high-level overview.
Great, thank you. Heather, you're next.
Hi, my name's Heather Dirksen. I'm with Arbor Masters Tree Service. We operate out of Kansas City, Tulsa, Wichita, Oklahoma City, and Dallas. And we do a mix of tree work, THC at most of our locations, but in our Kansas location, we do landscape maintenance, irrigation, install and maintenance, and a whole lot of landscape design and install. So that's our business. We have a mix of mostly residential and commercial clients, but our Dallas market, we do about 90% municipality. So this coronavirus has affected us differently at our different locations.
Hey folks, Matt Shepayo, Preservation Tree Care. I'm the President and Chief Arborist of Preservation Tree Care, and we are just in South Denver, Colorado. We offer trim, removal services, planting, and plant health care. And we're about a $2 million company here locally. And COVID, it's definitely impacting the climate of our area. I'll say that for now.
Yeah, so I'm Ross Day with Vice President of Oasis Landscape. We have 2 locations in the North Atlanta area. We are 60% install, 40% maintenance with a little bit of irrigation, service design, build. And we're just plugging along, man, trying to get through this thing.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Jack Harder from Harder Services, based right outside of New York City on Long Island. Run 4 operations: landscape installation, maintenance, IPM, plant healthcare, and tree care. Working for pretty much everybody: residential, commercial, municipal, and utility. Generally have about anywhere between 45 to 60 employees under normal circumstances, which obviously these are not, and we'll discuss that further.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for the introductions. let's go to our first audience poll. So we want to ask you guys how COVID-19 is impacting your current operating situation. And so to launch this poll, cool. All right, got enough results to share. So looks like majority are fully operational, which is great to hear. But a good portion of folks have cut back on services, and then it looks like some are completely shut down right now. So glad to see not as few of that, but definitely good to kind of know, and we want to hear about some of that too. So all right, cool. So first poll down. Let's go to our second poll that we want to get before we get into some of the panel questions. How is COVID-19 impacting your top line specifically? So, cool. I will share. So, I mean, this is just overwhelming that this has impacted top line negatively so far. Some with no impact, but no one basically said that they're kind of, seeing growth compared to last year, at least as of, as a result of COVID-19, which obviously I wouldn't expect that, but yeah, certainly something to be, pay attention to about the top line, being impacted negatively, especially as spring's starting. So, all right, a couple two easy polls here. We'll also post up the whole session and share later if you guys are interested in any of this data. But let's go to our first panel question. So COVID-19 impacting your top line. So basically kind of want to just dive into some of the details here, what you guys are seeing. And so let's just kind of start and go down the list. Matt, could you please give the first, your response on this one?
Yeah, hey, this is Matt with Swift Straw. We've actually seen different impacts across the three different lines of our business. The install division has been hit the hardest. We've had cancellations from customers that have been shut down, such as schools, churches, events, things of that nature. We've also just started seeing this week some multifamily clients that are really cutting back on expenses across the board. We are still generating revenue. We're still operational. We haven't, fortunately, we haven't had to let anybody go yet or make any cuts of that nature. But revenue is definitely down some, but still, there is still a lot of work going on, so it's not all negative. On the distribution side and our bagged product, which is a little bit more consumer facing, that has been more consistent. We attribute that to the fact that when more people are at home, they're spending time doing home improvement projects, working in the yard, and they're still buying a lot of straw. And thankfully, our customers most of them have been deemed essential. The Home Depots, the Lowe's, the Ace Hardwares. They're all still up and running. They've modified their hours, but so the very short version is we have seen an impact, but we're just kind of crossing our fingers and watching it minute to minute. We are still moving a lot of straw, and haven't had to make any changes that are too drastic in nature. Okay.
Well, definitely noteworthy that the install side of the business is kind of seeing a little bit of lagging, growth right now. So, well, cool. Thank you for sharing. So Heather, let's hear about how this is impacting your business.
Yeah, so I would say our tree and THC work has slowed down slightly over the last couple of weeks. This week, we definitely saw, an upswing in requests for estimates. And I think that's because about 2 weeks ago is when we first started our shelter in place. And so everybody was kind of getting freaked out. I think now people are at home and they're spending time in their backyards, and they're getting paid the same in a lot of instances, or sometimes even more if they're on unemployment. So I think that their spring is coming around here in Oklahoma and, Kansas, and definitely down in Texas, to where we're seeing an increase in our estimates. Where we've really seen a decline is in our municipality work, because the contract managers often aren't around at the office to do their work orders. I actually joked around with one of our contract managers for one of our cities that we work with, and I said, well, all you need to do is get single ops to do your work orders for you, because I'm at, I'm at home doing work orders, and our employees are at home doing work orders. But yeah, so mostly around the board, we've seen a little bit of a decline, but an upswing lately just because the spring is sprung in. But we'll see over the next couple of weeks as, we start to see an increase in cases of COVID. So. Yeah.
Well, great information. I mean, that's something that we've really heard too, is that just folks being at home and like kind of looking around their house and saying, all right, I should take care of that. Let's, put in that request for an estimate or something. Definitely kind of seems to be a little bit of a trend. But also too, if you're working from home, that's like the last thing you should be doing is, all right, what can I clean? What can I do in the yard? But so hopefully, yeah, you guys could take advantage of that for people who, are just kind of looking around and, want to do that home improvement or that project in their property. So, well, great. Good information. Matt, so would love to get your take on this.
So I'm Matt with Preservation Tree Care. We're in a very similar situation as Heather. Spring is not quite sprung here, and we, it's 30 degrees today and a little rain snow mix. So we're about even from last year, and really waiting for spring to kick off here to increase our business. Municipalities, one of the cities that we work with is on a spending freeze currently, so we're not going to be seeing any work from them until I would say at least the middle of May. And commercial, residential, about the same. So that's where we're at.
Well, cool. Starting to see a trend here on the municipality side, kind of drying up at least for the time being. So, well, great. Ross, would love to get your take.
So as Heather said, people are at home. We've seen an uptick in requests for proposals on design build, backyard projects and that kind of stuff. Maintenance hasn't dropped at all for us yet. My main concern is going to be collecting it. I think people will let us come do their yard for as long as possible, but might not pay us for it. So as the workflow has not changed, I'm kind of worried about the collection side.
What I'd like to dive in there. I mean, have you thought of any ideas for the collection side that you would implement to maybe help it during this time?
Depending on the client, we've given some people some ways to furlough the maintenance side for a couple months and continue, because we are in spring, and I'm afraid if we don't keep our hands around it over time, it could get really out of control. So depending on the client, the relationship, we've made some concessions here and there, but it's more of just don't let that revenue sit out there too long.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, don't want to shamelessly plug single ops too much during this, but I think, getting folks to leverage some of the, modern kind of payments functionality that single ops has can also, help with that, with secure credit card storage, automated bill pay, all that type of stuff. So
definitely helps, without a doubt. We use that a lot. It definitely helps. It's just a matter of, like I said, we haven't seen any slowing business at all yet. It hasn't gone, we're not higher than last year, but it hasn't slowed down. So just keep plugging along.
Well, cool. Good to hear. Jack, would love to get your take.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a negative impact. Not as big a negative as we were expecting, but almost right away, I'd say probably about 2 weeks ago now, we had to completely shut down operations in New York City, which is a big amount of maintenance and cleanups. And we were involved in 2 installation projects in there that I know at least one of them is still technically open. It's a construction project on a hospital that's it's not operational at the moment, but they're still considered essential. But we had a crew of guys that had a powwow one morning 2 weeks ago, and we weren't pushing. We asked them honestly, how do you feel about this developing situation? Now, a lot's happened in 2 weeks, but they just decided they'd rather not do it. So we pulled everything out of New York City. What's interesting is there are a number of buildings that we're talking to that they don't want to stop anything. So we're still invoicing work, and they're still putting it through for budget reasons, which would help us. And we basically are saying when we catch up, when this is all through, we're going to have to, do the work required to keep everything in shape. So it'll all shake out in one sense. Locally, we've been still maintaining our maintenance crews. and our tree crews are doing utility tree trim, which is still essential. So that's helping kind of keep things in balance. But just playing off some of the earlier comments, I've seen at least 3 during this session so far, and on a regular basis, I'm seeing the notifications from single ops that our customers are paying their bills online. So that's definitely helped us keep the money coming in, whereas in the past it was a wholly paper process, which took a few days to a few weeks. Now people's credit cards are being processed as we're sending out our bills, and our April 1st bills went out yesterday. So we're seeing a lot of that money coming in, which has definitely helped keeping things normalized.
Well, that's great to hear. The modern payments adoption in the industry, the industry as a whole has been so slow to adopt it. Same too on kind of the customer financing side, which we want to work on with single ops. But sometimes it takes, an event like this to really kind of drive people to start, adopting those types of modern, business practices and using a tool to do so.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. It was a big help for us, so we appreciate that now.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, good feedback, everyone, on this one. So let's keep rolling. We've got another poll before we jump into the next panel question. But basically, how has this impacted your team internally? So what's great to see is that most companies you guys on the webinar have not had to lay off anyone, which is great. Obviously it's super understandable that some folks are, and so we're seeing that 33% on here, and then 2 actually that have actually added some staff onto their team. And so obviously every market's different, but I think we might, in one of the next questions, kind of dive into, I believe, how some folks actually have done that during this time. So we've actually got, I believe, a couple questions in here. So I'm going to take a pause, and I think I have to unshare my screen here to get to them. So cool. So Ian Randolph, and basically I can just kind of publish this, I believe. So basically he's saying that, strictly commercial, we've had a lot of our customers go to either suspend services entirely or cut back to bi-weekly work, also hold off on enhancements and color installation. We've also had 1 install job that was put on hold. So for Mary Lou, that they've had companies adapted to crew transportation concerns, i.e. multiple employees and maintenance vehicles. I'd like to maybe dive in there because I know that some folks on the panel have kind of changed up how they're handling that. How are you guys handling like multiple crew members in the same vehicle at any given time?
So we give the crew the option, if there needs to be more than 2 people in one truck, we give the option for them to follow and reimburse them for their mileage. So if there's 2 or 3 people on one crew, we can have 2 cars follow them to the job site and pay them back for the mileage when they do that. We've set some standards on cleaning vehicles during the day, in the morning, in the evening, but we give the crew members options. If they want to follow, they can, and we can just pay them for their mileage.
And you leave that up to kind of the crew member's preference?
Yes, we do. So if it's not required, we're requiring everybody to take their temperature. They have 5 questions they have to ask every single morning, answer every single morning, and then the crew decides if they want to separate or not. We've given everybody the option too, is if they feel uncomfortable, they can come to us and say, although my crew member doesn't want to, I want to drive separately, we allow them. So far, nobody's taken us up on that, but we made that as standard and let everybody know.
Yeah, that's really good practice.
And I can speak to that as well. Similar to you, Ross, it's a voluntary basis right now, whether crew members want to ride separate or not. We do have 1 crew member that is very strict about, does not want to be around within 6 feet of any other crew members. He's been traveling solo. Luckily, he's on plant healthcare. But that has been a concern. Most of the crew wants to ride together. They want that camaraderie. They don't want to be sitting alone thinking about the situation. And so they have each other riding down the road. And, we've increased or we've instated cleanliness practices around cleaning tools. If you go to the gas station, you immediately, are wiping down the handles on the truck, the interior of the truck, sanitizing your hands, and just trying to keep this thing at bay as much as possible.
Yeah, really good practice as well. We've got another poll. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the polls. Hopefully we didn't do poll overkill, but it's a fun little feature here. So this one, just kind of curious about how you guys are performing estimates and the options here. I'll go ahead and launch the poll. Are you guys not performing any estimates right now? Are you still going on site? Or are you not going on site and just doing it 100% remote? How are you guys kind of doing this? And I know there's probably we're going to get to some discussion on this too, because I know this is kind of a tough topic. All right, thank God everyone's still working and sending out estimates. So great news here. A handful are not going on site at all or doing it all remotely. Now, of course, it depends on the different type of service, right? Like with some kind of residential lawn care, you could potentially use tools online to do that. But obviously with emergency tree work, you got to go on site for the most of the time. So but going on site but not interacting with the customer, so that's really kind of the majority here. So let's dive into that. Okay, well, a little bit out of order, but let's go back to the kind of the poll about impact on your team. So you guys have kind of mentioned a little bit about social distancing on the crew level, but just your team as a whole. I'd love to kind of go down the list and just kind of hear how you guys think has it impacted your team, whether from an emotional basis, is there anxiety? How are folks coping, and then how are you kind of helping them with that? So let's go reverse order this time. And so why don't let's start with Jack for this one.
Well, I think just in general, everybody was getting a little freaked out about it early on, and it's almost weird to say it's kind of become a normal thing now. We've set some rules in place across the board for both our main office and outside. Social distancing. We got a time clock room, so it's one person at a time goes in, and whereas in the past, a bunch of chairs in there, the guys would kind of gather in the morning or the afternoon and have a little BS session. In the office, it's been just constant hand washing and Purelling, and I'm on Clorox wipe duty a couple of times a day, usually in the morning and then in the afternoon before we close up, doorknobs and handrails and the crew's workbooks and the bathroom sink, everything. So it's become a bit of a routine so far, but periodic meetings with everybody every time. In our case, our governor has come out with a couple of different executive orders detailing things about what type of work is acceptable, and between that and the CDC and presidential recommendations that have been coming out, every time something new comes out, we gather everybody 6 feet away and just go over all the most recent information so that everybody's doing what they need to do to try to stay safe. But it's definitely kept everybody on edge, and I think the biggest impact was cutting back salaried staff by a day to try to normalize the effect of our decreased revenue. But other than that, we're just trying to keep going as normal.
Well, I love that, like, you're setting the example with, as simple as that is just Clorox wipes and like wiping everything down. Because if they see, a key manager or an owner doing that too, obviously I think that sets a really good example for the rest of the team.
My hands have been brutalized by this stuff.
Yeah, mine are raw. Every time I live in a condo complex, and every time I press the button to let my dog in or out or whatever, just washing hands. Well, Ross, would love to hear about your team. Anything you guys have, how they're handling it, anything creative you guys have put in place.
I think the standards we put in place for the entire team, both offices, everybody's really appreciated. We're a family, so I think everybody here is excited they're employed still. In essence, we're the definition of social isolation. Go out, 2 or 3 guys in a house, they don't touch each other, they don't see anything. I think the biggest thing we've seen is everybody's home now, and everybody's very critical because they're home and they can pick out flaws in the guys. So the teams themselves have seen a little more uptick in complaints, but everybody's happy to still be at work. We do all of our meetings outside, 8 to 10 feet apart. We quarantined our office per se, no non-essential people can come in. So the offices are basically safe space. The sales team's all at home. but only the necessary people come in. I'm in my office today just to get away from my two crazy kids. But we had the office misted 3 times a week, so it gets sprayed down real well, and just keep washing my hands. But everybody's been really blessed to go to work basically every day because there's so many people who can't. So one of the rare times being a landscaper is actually a good thing.
Yeah. Well, it's great that your team kind of realizes that they're fortunate in that regard.
It took a minute. It really did. A lot of people, because their wives or family members are at home wondering why they're still going to work. But over time, they've realized that what we do is, as long as you're isolated, it's actually a pretty good job in this kind of atmosphere.
Right. So Heather, what about you guys?
Yeah, I think, everything that everybody has said, we're a family too. And, everybody's super appreciative to have the work, to be at work. We've gone down to one person in an office at a time. I used to share an office with our safety director, and I said, it's either you or me at work. And we're going to have to alternate, coming into the office. So just really setting the example myself, not being with other people when I don't really have to be. And, I stopped visiting all the other offices. I used to visit the other offices quite often and meet with leadership, and we're doing all of our work remotely now, networking remotely. And I think it's the new normal for us. And in that aspect, it might cut down some travel costs for us and maybe be something that we implement going forward more often.
Mm-hmm. Just maybe a side note. So for all the virtual stuff, clearly everyone on the panel, you guys are using single ops. So that allows you to kind of do, a lot of work remote, et cetera. But for other aspects, so we're using Zoom for this video conference. What collectively kind of is your favorite service to do the kind of video conferences like this?
I mean, we're using Zoom. We also use LogMeIn. Another thing that we're doing remotely is we're going to voice over internet phones. We're getting all of our phones switched over.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to do that anyways, but we kind of upped it, on the voice over internet phones. But as far as meeting with each other, usually we use Zoom.
So the next one, and this was kind of that second poll question, approach with your customers change. So we kind of talked a little bit about estimates, but would love to know anything you guys are doing in particular in terms of communicating with your customers, and sending out emails. How has that changed and how are you responding? And so let's basically kind of reverse order again. And Matt, I apologize. I may have missed you. I left you out of the last one, but let's start with you and get your take on this one, Matt Lowe.
Yeah, hey, Matt with Swift Straw. Yeah, that's no problem. I didn't have a ton of additional things to add on the last subject. But one thing that we're doing is, a lot of our customers are concerned with our specific product. Is there going to be a decline in sales of that product? And therefore, they would need to start reducing their inventory levels to mitigate against that risk. And so what we've been doing is we've been tracking not just our sales, but our actual incoming orders by product, by state, really across the country. And then we've been sharing that with our customers so they can at least feel comfortable that the product is moving and just have some assurance that they're not going to order 5 trailers of product and get stuck with it. So we've just been, we as a company, and this really addresses the last subject, what have we been doing as a team? We've been, we've increased our communication and our what we call daily huddles, where we have huddles by operation. And now that everybody's working remote, we've really increased the level of communication. And then we've really doubled down on all of our technology resources, single ops included, to get real-time data. Because I think we can all agree we're living in a minute-to-minute world right now. Mm-hmm. And so we've really hyper-focused on the data, the incoming sales by SKU, by state, by customer type. And then thankfully the data has still been pretty good and strong. And so we've been sharing that with customers to give them some comfort.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, whether it's wholesale delivery, install, maintenance, obviously you want to let your customers know, hey, we're still open for business, but maybe even sharing some data behind that. Not only are we open for business, but just last week we did, X amount of work in your area, something like that, just to kind of give them confidence that not only are you guys open for business, but you have the capacity to work with them.
Well, and in addition to that, I think it's helpful for people to know that other people are doing maintenance and installations. Nobody wants to feel like they're the only one in the city that's doing an install during a pandemic. So so I think it's helpful to know that people are still living their lives and operating, and there's definitely a new normal. But I'm hopeful that we're entering this new normal. Everyone's going to get into a rhythm and sort of get back to business as usual.
Well, that's great. So really, really good feedback there. Matt, what about you guys?
Absolutely. So we have changed our communication with our clients. I put out a video recently using BombBomb. So there's some more technology. We use BombBomb video technology, and it was, specifically around, hey, we are essential business. We're out working, and while you guys are at home, we want to make sure that your place is safe. It's looking good. Reach out to us, and being on site, we're social distancing. I had a client yesterday that didn't seem to mind that too much, and I just had to keep reminding them and backing up. But we're very mindful of this COVID and sharing that and communicating it, and just communicating with our clients like this is a very strange time for us. None of us have ever dealt with it, and it's awkward for me. I judge it's awkward for you, and we're in this together, and we're here to help you. So, we've also been using the single ops, the text, and the email to let our clients know that yes, we're working, but we're going to be social distancing. We've instated protocols to keep you and us safe, and so that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, especially for having to go on site for an estimate, just letting the customer know in advance, like, hey, we understand social distancing. Like, this is what we'll be doing on your property to avoid like getting close to you or any of that stuff, just to give them some confidence there. So that's a great, really good idea. Cool. So just kind of skipping around here. Jack, what about you guys?
Just echoing some of the things Matt said. I think we've improved the communication with our customers, sending out a couple of email blasts, just letting everybody know that we're continuing to work. And, like I mentioned, everybody's asking us based on all these executive orders that keep coming out and just narrowing businesses further and further, just reassuring them that we are out able to do our work. We've communicated with our customers and with our crews to be cognizant that there's no kids in school now. And they can't go to parks and stuff like that. So just be extra careful when you approach people's houses. We've let our customers know that once we get into our normal rhythm, we're going to have your set day and time, and we can try to plan around that and work with, assuming this is going to go on for at least another couple more weeks, we can try to work around that, but we're going to do our best to get our work done and keep your place looking good without impacting you and your family. Whereas, in the past, customers become familiar with our supervisors and our crew foreman and may ask questions or come over and ask guys how they're doing. Now everybody's just keeping their distance. But aside from that, using the single ops email feature and sending out the emails to our customers, we've changed voicemail recordings and set up out of office responses for all of our email addresses, so that anybody that sends in any kind of request gets a little message back saying that how we're dealing with this. Just a little quick thing, bear with us, we're all in this together, and this is how we're going to handle it. We've basically just turned off all face-to-face meetings. We're not scheduling anything to go meet with somebody. So where a customer may request a specific face-to-face in the past to explain something, now it's just, I'm going to go there, take a look, take some pictures, measurements, and then we'll discuss it afterward. And I think everybody is understanding that even though that may not be the preferred way to do it, that's just how we're going to have to handle it for the time being. And everything seems to be working out okay.
Well, great. Really good information. So Ross, I definitely want to ask you about this one too, about kind of your approach with customers, especially too, and I want to highlight, I don't want to steal your thunder, some of the kind of creative things and, services you guys have been offering your customers as well through this.
Yeah, so we've been using single ops, sending out emails and so forth. We also use MailChimp. We send a newsletter out once a month. And the best response newsletter we've ever sent out was last week, where we just sent everybody and told everybody we're still considered essential. We're still servicing properties. And instead of trying to sell them anything, we actually told all of our customers that if they needed us to go get groceries, prescriptions, any type of lumber, anything at Home Depot to do projects, and they were afraid of going outside, that since we're considered essential, we would deliver it to them. We've never seen a response in any newsletter we've ever done as high as that one. People were just really happy to know that we're all in this together. We had somebody ask us to hang a ceiling fan for them. We politely declined. Besides that, that's the best. Everybody has been very appreciative of the offer, and it seemed to, like I said, it was the highest opening rate and highest return rate we've ever seen in any email we've ever sent.
I mean, that's awesome. And yeah, it just like speaks to those customers, like, you care about them. I mean, especially too, that you're kind of offering these things is because you guys are, you can be on the roads, you're an essential service. That's just going to buy you so much goodwill with those customers. When it comes time to renewals or when all this is said and done, I mean, they won't forget that. So, I mean, I really, really liked that you did that. And I thought it was really creative.
Well, it helps with legacy and impact. I mean, that's one of our core values is to leave an impact, and that does. And so we're in this. We're really tight knit in our community. I think it went a long way. We had some other people we know offer some discounts on installations and that kind of stuff, and they got yelled at for sending anything to drive business when everybody doesn't know what's going to happen. So this really, like you said, improved the goodwill with the company. Awesome.
Well, great. I love it. Really good idea there. So, all right, cool. So rolling deep dive. So for the sake of time, we've already kind of gone into the different services and how you guys are being impacted differently across that. So let's go ahead and skip that. Same thing with the different customer types. I mean, basically we heard big trend is the municipal stuff. It has dried up quite a bit, at least for the time being. So not one last poll, and then we got one last question for you guys. And so this is basically the federal stimulus. I know the details are still kind of coming out, and it's pretty fresh. The Senate's just signed this bill, but I'm curious to ask, and let's post this now. For the federal stimulus, how do you feel like your impact will be, your organization will be impacted? Not enough to make a difference, what they're providing is adequate, and, or it's too difficult to understand. I'm just not sure yet. Cool. All right. I think this one's really, really interesting, actually. So, no one's saying that it's not enough to make a difference. Some are saying it's adequate, but I mean, just the majority are saying it's too difficult to understand and they're not sure. And I absolutely agree with you. With single ops, we're doing great, but if, for an SBA loan, if it's forgivable, why not? But do we qualify for it? And so there just seems to be so much legwork, hopefully, we can get this better communicated to us, but I feel the exact same way. It's just really difficult at this point to understand, how that will actually impact, any of us personally or the business. So let's see. So just for you guys, just quick, and we don't have to go do the round, the whole, everyone on here, just everyone who's still on, federal stimulus, impact on your business. How do you guys feel about that? Are you uncertain like everyone else? You think it's going to have an impact? What would your take be?
Our expectation is that it will be helpful for us. We've had communication with our payroll company, our accountant, and our bank. I feel like we probably our inboxes are all getting inundated with every company we've ever bought anything for online or worked with. Everybody's letting us know how they're handling it. But almost as soon as this thing was passed, all three of those, payroll, banking, and accountant all got in touch with us about how they're going to help us work through it. So that's been a big help, telling us what information to gather. And basically, as far as the not the SBA loan, the one that's the payroll protection program, I think it is, right. The one that's possibly forgivable. Our accountant basically said that it's how could it not help? And even if it's not forgivable at the end, the interest rate is so low that if it helps you float through the next couple weeks, couple months, there's only upside. So we're looking forward to getting our paperwork together, our application in tomorrow when it goes live, and hopefully everything works out as planned. But just we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody I've talked to, do not wait till tomorrow. Get it in today. I talked to a banker today that's been processing, or who's sitting on a stack of application. He's almost at $80 million already, and it started on Monday or whenever they released it. So if you get your ducks in a row to get it done today and send it over today for processing tomorrow, do that. From what I hear, that they will run out of money by tomorrow at 5 p.m. There's supposedly going to be another wave, but don't wait to start the process till tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Good feedback. All right, well, let's rush up and finish this thing so people can jump on that. All right, well, here, I'm going to jump off of this one. And so basically, last thing, and before we do this, hold on, let me just open up one last thing. Any questions before we kind of wrap up? All right, here's a good one from Stephen Chisholm. So I just published it. Does anyone have a contingency plan for what they are going to do if this continues for multiple weeks or another month? So panelists, any of you guys have any take on that?
Yeah, that's been a big concern for everybody, I'm sure, but especially around here. The feeling is that any day now, Governor Cuomo in New York is gonna issue just a straight stay at home, shut it down order. And basically our plan for that would be, almost a total layoff, all field crews, cut office staff back again, and, just keep trying to slim everything down to bare bones. Our field crew, almost everybody is eligible for unemployment based on the current situation. So that's helpful, not ideal. But if we're told, there's no such thing as essential anymore, shut off the lawnmowers and go home, that's our only option is just, tell everybody to hunker down and we'll see what happens, and week by week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate, but putting that plan in place, I think now is super important, just so you have it. If you need it, hopefully you never have to look at it again. But yeah, I think that's important. Where to go? Can you explain product and equipment for misting offices and vehicles? So in terms of like spraying the offices and vehicles, you guys, are you hiring someone? Like, are you using a product? That's what Mary Lou is asking.
So we gave all the crews their own spray bottles, wipes, and everything, gloves for every single crew. They have masks and hand sanitizer. Each truck has all that. The office itself, we hired a company that comes and sanitizes after everybody leaves on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then throughout the day, I think Jack said he was actually wiping stuff down. That happens as well. But you're only wiping what you can see and touch. This company comes in and disinfects the whole office, which really helps. And then we haven't implemented that on the actual trucks yet, maybe something to look into, but the crews themselves have their own bottles designated to each crew and each truck so they can keep theirs clean.
Great. Well, cool. All right, so back to a little slideshow. And before I say thanks, one last thing to ask you guys, just open, forum that would just love to learn. What has helped your organization the most so far? One single thing you might have done. I'd love to just kind of, hear from each of you what that one thing might have been.
Stay positive. I mean, as a leader, being the only person, even when you see the numbers, you can't run around and think the world's ending. So staying positive and having somebody to look up to is probably the number one thing I can recommend.
Yeah, I definitely agree that positive attitude and projecting that to the guys. I think our kind of family oriented culture definitely helps a lot. And I think it was mentioned earlier, the crews see how we're trying to deal with this. They understand we're all in it together, and we're doing our best to keep everybody healthy and safe and working for the time being. It helps with peace of mind and trying to get everybody through this. So I think the fact that our crew has been healthy and everybody, God willing, stays that way. I think that's definitely what's helping us so far, and we'll see what happens.
Well, cool. Matt, did you have anything you want to share on this one?
I'm going to echo both Ross and Jack and staying positive, deeply connecting with the crew, keeping that family that family environment. And I mean, my wife's sharing, farm shares and just different products that we're using as a family, and sharing that with our team so that they can get what they need in this time, even if, the stores are empty. So yeah, that's staying positive and getting through it together.
Absolutely. Well, that's it, everyone. So, thank you so much for joining. I thought it was really informative. What we'll do is we'll do a little write-up afterwards with some of the takeaways. We'll also share this when recording it if you want to watch it later for folks that couldn't join. But yeah, absolutely. Really good stuff. We had really good attendance. So really nice. So thank you all. And yeah, just like everyone else said, stay positive. Have a great week.